Okay, hello everyone and welcome. I have finished off what is called the Burningblade and Silvereye series, a trilogy of books by Django Wexler. Here's all three of them. I got the order wrong there. So here's Ashes of the Sun, here's Blood of the Chosen, and this is what I just finished this morning, Emperor of Ruin. So, first off, unfortunately, this was sitting in TBR hell for a little while, and I had to go back and kind of refresh and get the primary points in my head, and then I almost wasn't in the mood for it, but it's like, get it done and get it over with. And I enjoyed the book, and all three books actually. Maybe the first one is still the better of the three. Now, apparently these books, they're very obviously Star Wars inspired, and the author said a big portion of his reason for writing it was a book called Star Wars on Trial, where they debated major plot and character points. I think this was set off originally by David Brin. I never did read the book. I might think about it, though I kind of already have an idea of what a lot of the arguments were about, liking this, midichlorians and things like that. I don't know that I need a refresher on it. But here's all the Star Wars-like stuff in these books. Probably not all of it, but I took some notes. Magic Blades of Light are, there's two leads. There's Maya, and I don't know if it's pronounced Gear or Geyer. Maya is a centaur, which might as well be Jedi, and they have a bladeless hilt, and it lights up magic white light, and she can cast spells through it and such like that. Her brother, however, winds up being Mr. Biomechanical, and that has to do with some series of villains in Star Wars Expanded Universe books called Yuzan Vong. They are brother and sister. A centaur came along, and they take children just like Jedi do in order to train them to be centaurs. The books start out with that happening. It's going to be, we need to get Maya, she has power, we're going to train her. But something's amiss, the brother doesn't want her to go, and this particular centaur wind up being one of the bad guys. And he took the Gear's eye and ran off with Maya. And she just didn't know any better, and assumed that this is the way it's supposed to be. She's just a little child. And he vowed to destroy the centaurs once and for all after he, grows up and is capable of doing so. That sets up a conflict of brother and sister throughout these books. This was a storyline, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been in comics or novels, where the idea is that people want the Jedi to take responsibility for, what happens with these kids. You're just taking kids. Well, they're never taking kids. It's with consent from the parents and the child. But somebody wrote a story about, well, what if it's not? But it turned out to be a plot to discredit the Jedi. This wasn't so much a discrediting. This dude was actually a villain. First, there's this really large city with really tall buildings, Coruscant. The big bad guy goes to this city of towers and addresses the Republic to say that there's no more Republic. We're going to form an empire and destroy the rebels. He does that in this book. Let's see. They do have troopers. They're called legionnaires, and they're all in white armor. And of course, when they light up their bladeless hilt, it makes a snap hiss sound, which is something you find as a sound effect in a lot of Star Wars books. Other than that, these books are their own animal. They are their own characters. It's just a very Star Wars structure, even to the point of using the 3-act play, where your first book is the intro, the second book tends to leave the characters in a very bad place, which is what the second book does. And then, of course, the third book is the resolution. And that's what you get here. it just works out. I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, you can dig these books. I sure did. Some of the, if I could criticize something, there's some character relationships that aren't maybe as fleshed out or as they could be. Maya, for example, takes on a love interest in the second book, which is someone who had just adored her and revealed so, but it felt like kind of an add-on in this book, in that book. In this book, it's it grows a little more and it's better. Still, this woman tends to be the "I hope you make it back okay" type, and goodbye, and I'll see you later. That kind of thing is not a romance story. It's not a romance books. The most interesting character in these books, though, is this one fun one. She was actually on Gear's side, and she winds up getting torn apart. Her mind she's just destroyed, but her mind gets uploaded, and what she's able to do is take control of these little constructs. They have various shapes and sizes. One that's primary in this book is this little six-legged spider-looking deal, and but she winds up being a big help with swarms of things, and she can be in many places at once. So if characters are over here and the other characters are in another city, they can at least communicate through her if she's got constructs with them. She is foul. She is sexually just filthy, and she's a lot of fun, and I honestly wish there was more of her. And it winds up actually, it's not just Maya and Gear. They're the main characters in this one. I think Kit, that's her name, Kit, winds up kind of sneaking in as the third, and she becomes very important, and she was a lot of fun to read. I think at one point, if you're going to make a statue of me, make it one where there's the street and there's legs, so it's really big, and everybody has to drive under and look up. That's what she wanted. That's the kind of character she was. She was just lots of fun. So the really good series of books. They're all out, so you don't have to let it rest in TBR hell like I did and have to go back. So I read recently The Doors of Sleep, did a video on that, and I praise this to high heaven. It's a really good book. Someone informed me, oh, I forgot to get their name. I'm sorry. Someone in my comments mentioned you're going to read Prisons of Sleep, the sequel? I didn't know it had a sequel. And there it was, sitting right there next to another one of these. When I went and bought it, Prison of Sleep. And so this was a fellow who, when he goes to sleep, he wakes up and he's in another world. He hasn't determined yet if it's another dimension or just some faraway place in the same universe. And in the first one, a very, let's say, megalomaniac type villain was chasing him through these dimensions, trying to get his ability so he could use it to literally take over the universe. And so we're gonna see what goes on here. Does it have anything new here? Let's see. He's not alone. Evil writhing behind the doors. Oh, so evil worshipped by other travelers. Okay, so an evil writhing behind the doors, pulling at the very fabric of the universe, an evil worshipped by other travelers, an evil they want to set free. This is a struggle for the future of the universe, a door that Zax must step through into nightmare. And one of my favorite characters who I just fell in love with is expressed this wonderful friendship moment in here that I just loved, and we're going to get more of her in this one. Yeah. I also went and grabbed this beast, The Great Book of Amber. So 10 books in the Amber Chronicles, and someone I knew just online in a Facebook group about fantasy and science fiction was also a fan of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, like I am, and knew way more than I did. So that's my favorite fantasy series, and I run into someone who utterly knows everything about it, way more than I do. But he said this was actually his favorite fantasy series of all time, so I decided to trust his opinion and go ahead and grab this. 1,200 some pages, and there's 10 books, so about 250 pages per. Wait, I'm doing that wrong. 1,200 divided by 10, 120. Am I doing that right? So I don't know that I'm not. I don't know if I'll read this straight through unless it's just that damn good, and it appeals to me that way. But maybe the idea is I'll go through and read one, and then read another book, and read another one, and just flip flap back and forth. I have it in my head that I put the other book away. This is a sequel to a book called Titan Hoppers. This is Spire Climbers. This is actually a young adult book, and I liked the first one. It has a centering around a magic system of floating sigils, and I maybe not magic, but at the very least they get various superpowers depending on each person. And the setup was that Earth has been left in ancient history. There are these large worlds just traveling throughout the galaxy they call them Titans. And so they send fleets of ships to go get them and try to use resources from them. The only problem is the creators of this world are gone, and in their place is just a menagerie of creatures, just the deadliest things they can fight. And so they have to fight for those resources, and they, generation after generation, have no idea where Earth is, so they have to rely on these Titans, and just a very dangerous lifestyle. So they have to train these warriors to go and do battle and get resources so they can all survive. And so this will be the sequel to that one. I think there's going to be 5, so this is the second one. Something I almost forgot. Something, I'm going to say one more thing about this. I mentioned this with Thomas Cumnett. Stephen Donaldson did something wonderful with his 10 books. Starting with the second one, of course. It is a recap of what came before. And so by the time you get to the 10th book, it's a fairly long recap of all 9 books. Well, he recaps the other 2 books, which was good for me because it helped, because it had been a little while and had a cast of characters and explained them a little bit. And I wish more authors would do that. When Rothfuss publishes that 3rd book, I hope he has a recap of the first 2, because they're very long books. Even though I love them, I'm not going to reread them, so I need a little update. Though I think if someone quizzed me, I like those books so much I could probably remember what had happened in them. I think that is it for me then. Hope you love these recommendations. Hope I did well summarizing for you. Hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so very much, and have a good weekend too. Bye-bye.